All right, so now we are going to talk products. You guys know our development is hard at work on our standalone app, on our SDKs. Everything is going on, and we need somebody who is in the right mindset and always has a smile on their face, and that is Alex Frenkel. He is VP of Product here, and so he is, he's the head of spearheading everything that goes on with product, and we're evolving and changing and growing, and we need someone who's going to understand those changes and be able to adapt. So that's what he's doing here with us. And to interview him, we have Rod McLeod. He is Director of Communications here at Kin, and he is the leader of it all in New York. So, also, I want to mention that he's been with Kik for 3.5 years, so he is well experienced with us. He's been through the TDE. He knows what's up, so he's a great person to have us keeping it all together. So let's hear it for Alex and Rod.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Good. So I'll be honest, when we put together kind of the program for this event, and we were actually going through the decks yesterday for about 2.5 hours, it was a little bit challenging just because you guys probably read all of our blogs, you're very active in our community channels, and we try to do a good job of being transparent, which I think we've done. So we were trying to come up with other things that you guys don't know or haven't already done. So this interview with Alex will be pretty informal. We're hoping that you get to know him a little bit more past what you've seen on the blog post or in the forums, just a little bit on his background, his philosophy on product, and from there we'll open it up for any questions you have on product, okay? So yeah, I mean, let's start a little bit about your background. When did you join Kik, and also what did you do prior to joining the company?
Okay, great. So I joined at the beginning of December, but I was involved probably a while before that. It took me a while to join. Before working at Kik, I was originally a clinical psychologist, so that's like my background, where I came from. And then started my own company, social gaming, a while back, like 8 years ago. And that was a very powerful experience for me, building a product for millions of users. We went through all the startup highs and lows, pivoting, doing a B2B business model, integrating our products into other platforms. And after that, I just fell in love with product and was super, super lucky. I got to work on mobile messaging very, very early on at a company called Zlango. Launched one of the first iOS messaging apps, millions of users. That was super interesting. And then I was VP product at Get, which is an Uber competitor, active in Europe, in many other countries. So building two-sided marketplace. And then a lot of my focus really switched to how do we build products that people actually use? I think that many of the products that don't succeed fail not because they didn't deliver on features, they fail because no one is actually using them on a large scale. So that was a very strong experience. After that, I spent some time working on social e-commerce for Sears, working on the Shop Your Way app. So again, large scale, many users, really focusing on mobile consumer experiences. And then I discovered blockchain. So that was it's 2015. I worked for a blockchain company called Kolu, initially protocol layer, working on color coins, developers. And we literally worked on doing what Ted described, helping people pay for coffee with cryptocurrency. And it was very, very clear that it doesn't work. It didn't work back then because of scale and infrastructure. It didn't make any sense, but also from the user side, it made very, very little sense. And when I got to know Kik and then Kin, I think that two things were very, very unique. One is the strength of the team. You met Tal that spoke before, but I think that we have a very, very strong team. We're almost 50 people in Tel Aviv now. We have a very strong team in New York. We have people in Philadelphia, in LA, in San Francisco, in Waterloo, in Toronto. A lot of experience in building products for consumers, very big products. And also this focus on the digital world, on online. I think that's the huge potential that cryptocurrencies and blockchain really has. So that's obviously got me very, very excited.
Cool. And obviously, that's a really interesting background that you studied not philosophy, psychology, right? And you also were in product. What's your philosophy on product, and how do you think about that?
So I think like my key learning was that product is not about like sitting in a room and like trying to figure out which cool features we should build. Like product is really about building something that people actually use, and a key factor there is build very, very fast, very, very lean, and actually test things with real users. So not like work in the laboratory for 2 years before launching something, but build something that is very agile, and then get feedback from real users, measure real data that comes from users. And I think that's a key part of my philosophy. Another important part is really the design and the experience. I think that at Get, it was really clear to me that product and design work hand in hand together, because if you want people to actually use the product, you need the product to be simple, easy to understand, and really provide amazing, beautiful experiences. So that was key. And maybe the last thing is that product is, in my mind, not only like the screens or the features inside the app or inside a web service. It's the entire experience the user has, like touching the brand. So when we think about Kin for us is not only like the app or the SDK. It's everything. It's like the emails, the community management, the visual side of it, the design. It's like more of like service design than like product design. So, yeah.
And what would you consider a good product today, and why?
So I think that good product is something that is, one, very easy to use, very clear, like the user is not getting lost with hundreds of flows or screens or complexity. And it also provides like this delight feeling of, wow, okay, this is not only working and simple and easy to understand, but it's also beautiful, and it's also like has the small touches that allow users to feel that we actually care. So it can be like the small animations, the transitions between like the different screens. And when I think about like which products like I like to use or inspire me, so I think about products like Airbnb. And when you look at Airbnb, it's really like the entire experience, right? It's not only the app, like it's how design is integrated into their products, how the communication and community, how the support works. When you think about like Zappos, for example. So obviously it's not only the website, it's like the entire experience around working with a product like Zappos, and like that's the vision we have for Kin.
Okay. Great. And switching gears to Kin, obviously there's a lot of audiences that we're trying to build our product for, right? And if you think about it, when we've talked, there's been three in particular: partners, developers, and also just consumers. So can you tell us a little bit more about those audiences and kind of how you think about each?
Yeah. So maybe a good starting point is like what Ted already mentioned. We're really focused on the digital world, on online services, and I think that that's the big potential that cryptocurrencies and blockchain has, because like this morning I paid for my double espresso with my credit card. I'm from Israel. Everything worked. I didn't even think about it. Like for me, that experience is not broken. When I look at the online world, I think that the internet really started with a big promise to like democratize information, create a more open world. And when you look at it today, it's really clear that there are big pains there, right? There are big pains for the developers. When you look at how the digital space is actually working, you see this duopoly of like Facebook and Google, the only companies that are able to monetize in a substantial way, and like they have almost full control of the market. Like 6 of the top 10 apps on the iOS store are ones that are coming from Facebook. And I think that that's not why the internet started, right? It's not why the App Store started. And when like I join partner meetings, so we have many of those in the last few weeks, I see the same picture that Ted described for Kik. Amazing products, millions of users, tons of engagement, users that really love the brands, and they're fighting to monetize. And they either need to go and like monetize on top of the users, so mine user data, target users with ads, use the data to target users even better with more ads, or to charge for the services. And I think that their pain is real, and this is something that Kin can really change. So we are definitely focused on developers, but the pain in the internet is coming also from the consumer side. When you think about like services like YouTube, right? So I have a successful channel. I'm the one creating the content. I'm the one that providing the value to other users, but I'm not getting rewarded. So I get like cents from Google, which is like the main company that monetizes on top of my content. And you see that happening on many different digital services, right? It doesn't matter if like I'm posting on Medium, right? And I get like 20,000 claps. I'm not monetizing on that, and Medium is not monetizing on that. And I think that that's the core pain we see today with the internet. And I think that Kin has a huge potential to really change how value is being distributed online. And to succeed, the way we look at it is as an ecosystem, right? So the players you mentioned, like developers and consumers and brands, are part of this ecosystem. I think that what Kin provides is opportunity for developers to focus on building amazing user experiences and really creating value for users. And for users, it provides an option to actually get rewarded for their contribution, for their engagement and usage. And for brands, it provides a way to actually ask for attention from users in a direct way. So we had, for example, Dunkin' Donuts working in one of the initial versions of Kin Inside Kik in the IPL v2, and Dunkin' Donuts was able to say to a user, hey Alex, would you mind like giving me some feedback, and I will reward you directly with Kin, right? And this creates this like direct and honest connection between all the players. And I think that that's the key focus, right? Like when you think about the internet today, there is a big competition. It's either like the company is monetizing on the back of the users, or the brands are paying companies to actually bombard users with ads, or users are not rewarded. And I think that the unique opportunity with Kin and like with blockchain and crypto is really create this ecosystem where everyone is rewarded fairly for their contribution. So it's definitely both consumers, digital services, and brands, and this is the products we're building.
And when we met first back in October, the Tel Aviv office, I believe, was about 25 people, and you were the first product hire for Kin. Since then, it's basically doubled to 50 people, and there's actually much more product people there. So could you tell us a little bit about how you're building out the product organization?
Yeah, so maybe one of the key changes is that we switched to organic product teams. So basically we have one end-to-end team that is working on the blockchain layer. So we have a product manager, Tanya, and we have a dev lead, and we have like QA and all the resources to build the blockchain infrastructure. And then we have another product team working on the 5-minute SDK, on the ecosystem SDK. And we have another product manager and a designer and an entire team focusing only on that. And then we have like the standalone wallet, and that's also an end-to-end team with a product manager and a designer, and like people that work 24/7 only on that. So that's like a major change. So we have like dedicated product managers working on each one of the products that we're building. But we also have like supporting teams. So we have a very strong data and BI team helping the products team figure out what users are actually doing with Kin and what's working and what's not. We have a customer insight team based here in New York. So we're doing a lot of user testing, a lot of research that goes into building our products. And we have a design studio, an internal one that is building like both the visual sides of the brand, but obviously all the user experience, UI, UX. So a lot has changed since then.
And obviously we've built IPL v1, IPL v2. Right now we have a beta app in the works as well. Can you share some learnings from what we've done so far? You know, what's been surprising? What have some barriers been?
Yeah, so we really believe in learning. We really believe that as long as we are learning, we're making progress, and our goal is to really move fast and learn as fast as possible. So IPL v1 was a good beginning. So we allowed users to hold Keen inside of Kik, right? But it was very limited. All they can see is the balance, some like basic functionality of a wallet. IPL v2 built on top of that. So in IPL v2, we had users inside of Kik actually earning and spending Kin, and that was super interesting because what we saw is that users were willing to invest a lot of attention and energy to earn Kin, and they used the Kin that they earned to actually unlock content inside of Kik, and the engagement there was way higher than we expected. I think that was a really strong, like, positive surprise, like how many users actually not only received Kin but actually worked to earn more and used Kin. There's a lot of learning going on the blockchain layer, so I think Tal talked a lot about it. At some point, we couldn't scale anymore because like Ethereum couldn't hold the amounts of users, and I think in that place, Kin is very unique. I think that when you look at other crypto projects, many of them are struggling to find the first users, and at Kin we have the other side of the challenge. We have millions of users that potentially can get access to Kin, and we need to find both like the scalable blockchain infrastructure but also the right user experiences. So we had to stop because we couldn't like scale it anymore. And now we have a live, like a closed beta for the standalone app. So with real users, students that are actually using it to earn and spend Kin on like digital value, tickets and other like types of content. But our main focus is really on learning. So the learning is both on the infrastructure and scale layer, but also on the experiences. So questions that are really critical for us is, how does a user understand what is Kin, what is crypto, why that should be interesting? What would the user want to do in order to earn more Kin? On what users want to spend Kin? So I think we're making tons of progress in the last few months, and when I look back, it's 1 quarter, right? Like 3 months since I joined, and like we literally had nothing live in the air that was built by the Tel Aviv team, and now like they're delivering new content every 2 weeks, so that's really amazing.
And if you look into the future, in 1 year, what do you think about product and where do you want to be? And in 5 years, what do you think? Where do you think the product is going to be?
Yeah, so for us, Kin is definitely an ecosystem, right? And I think that Ted talked about like the stages. So the first stage is to have a scalable blockchain infrastructure. I think that Tal mentioned like our stress testing of Kin on top of Stellar is very positive. We're able to reach 10 transactions a second, which is way higher than any other cryptocurrency right now. And also we have like the 5-minute SDK being literally integrated into Kik as we speak, and tomorrow the product team from Kik will talk more about that. So that's the next step, and then obviously like launching Kin on other digital services. And when I look a year ahead, so Kin is definitely the most used cryptocurrency by the end of the year, and we have not only Kik exposing users to Kin, but also at least a few other developers as well. So that's like by the end of the year. And like 5 years from now, like I think our goal is really to change how value is distributed on the internet, how people really create value, how developers are compensated for their contributions. So in 5 years, we see a really live and successful flourishing ecosystem of millions of users that are using Kin, and developers releasing new Kin experiences on regular basis. That's definitely the vision.
And when you think about success, how do you think, how will Kin be successful in your eyes with product?
So for us, the key factor is actual usage, right? It's actual transactions, actual active wallets, monthly active users that are transacting with Kin, and I think that that's the only way to actually measure success. I think in that way, Kin is very different from other like crypto projects that are talking mainly in like lab numbers or like in simulation environments. And for us, success is definitely real users using Keen on daily basis to create value, to earn more Keen, and developers building on top of Keen.
Great, thank you. So we have about 15 to 20 minutes left, and we'll open it up to the audience. Any questions?
What are the biggest threats you currently see between now and that 1-year benchmark and then the 5-year benchmark? So, what are the possible things that could get in the way of getting to those two sort of closer to end states?
So what are the biggest threats in a 1-year span and also in a 5-year span?
So I think that when we started, the biggest threat by far was scale, right? We have millions of users inside of Kik, like using Kik on daily basis, and like our understanding that if we would give Keen to all of those users tomorrow, that wouldn't work because there is no blockchain to support that. So that was definitely the biggest threat, and I think that we made a lot of progress with finding a more scalable solution, and I'm very optimistic about like what we have right now and the way we're going to launch Keen on top of Stellar and have those two blockchains working together. And then like the next big challenge is really the user experience. Like when you think about the cryptocurrencies, like all of you are like obviously exposed to the industry, but I think Ted asked like, when was the last time you actually used the cryptocurrency? So when was the last time you made a transaction? Like who did a transaction today with any cryptocurrency? Like one transaction. So I think that there is a huge user experience gap there, right? When I tell people that cryptocurrencies is the future and I try to convince them, hey, you should like try it, the hassle they need to go through is just impossible, right? Going on an exchange, finding a wallet, figuring out what's the difference between the wallets, how to back up a private key, how to restore it, what's a hardware wallet, what's a paper wallet. And when I actually have some cryptocurrency in my wallet, what I can do with it. That's definitely broken. And I think that that's a key challenge for us to build experiences that are meaningful, that will help people to not only hold Keen, but actually to understand how they can use Keen to make their lives better, how they can earn more Keen, where they can go to spend Keen. And that's a big part of like the ecosystem vision, right? So you have an option to hold Keen in the standalone app that will help you discover where you can go online to use Keen, which services, and will make it easier for you to move Keen between different platforms, so I can earn on one but spend on another. And then also for developers, right? So the integration needs to be really, really easy, right? Because each platform needs to focus on like building their core user experience for their users, and the SDK needs to take care of like onboarding users to Keen, providing the wallet, dealing with transaction history, with all the transaction layers. So everything there needs to be seamless. And I think in that way, we're also very different from other projects. We're not focusing on the transaction layer. We're focusing on the application layer. So the user experience is definitely one of the key things that we're focusing on and one of the biggest challenges.
I read a post a while back about it was exploring facial recognition, possibly for unlockable wallets. Is that kind of been pushed aside, or can you say anything about what the actual wallet will be? I mean, if we're targeting the masses, and it's such a complicated process for a crypto wallet, how are we going to simplify it within that?
So the question was, in a blog post, I believe over the summer, that you're referencing, basically we said that we were going to unlock a wallet via facial recognition with an iPhone 10. So, how do you think about wallets? It's a super complex topic.
So maybe like I can start by addressing the facial recognition question. So we have a very strong team, and we actually like built a proof, like a working concept that actually unlocks a wallet with facial recognition. But what we understood is that's not our key risk or the key challenge. I think that if facial recognition technology will evolve and will be really like trustworthy, there will be wallets that will be able to unlock instead of a fingerprint with a facial recognition. So we're not going to build that ourselves. But obviously, if the technology is there, it will be used for wallets. Maybe another like key factor is that almost everything we do is open source, and that's a big part of our vision, right? This like permissionless innovation ecosystem where any developer can contribute and build like more capabilities. So the way I look at it, we're building now the basic components, and we'll have like a standalone app that will be open source that we're building. But as the ecosystem evolves, what I really think will happen is other developers will build experiences that we can't even imagine right now. So there will be many more like wallets and capabilities that are coming from the developer community. It can be through experiences in games or in content sharing platforms, but it can be also like experiences that are more like wallet crypto oriented. So how do you buy kin? How do you move kin? I don't think that we're going to build everything on our own, and that's like also very important.
Just walking through how someone could be earning on one and then using it in another digital service. Like, would they have to go through one in the middle, like payments, or is it direct?
So how would a user earn in one app and then spend in another?
So I think that's a very, very good question, and I think that we're definitely not at a place where like we have all the answers. But the way we look at it is that on one hand, we want to make the initial experience for users as easy and simple as possible, right? So I'm now a Kik user. I get the first amount of kin, I can immediately start using it, right? I don't need to worry about like keys and moving kin between wallets. The first question is, why should I care about kin? What can I do with it? Where can I get more kin? And that experience is really like the focus. And then like Ted mentioned, like he gave some examples, and tomorrow we'll see more, but let's say like I'm hosting a group on road cycling, which is a passion of mine, right? And people join, they can award me with more kin for my contribution, and then I can take this kin and go on another platform, on a content platform, and say, hey, that's amazing content that you posted. I want to tip you or to award you for that content. So the way we look at it right now is that on one hand, users inside of Kik need to focus first of all of why they care about kin inside of Kik, and only then moving between different digital services, and to make that as easy as possible initially, the standalone app can really help, right? So at some point we tell you, hey, you have enough kin, should probably like hold it and have full control of it, so you can install an open source wallet, and that wallet will make it easier for you, one, move kin between different services, and to discover where else you can go and actually engage with kin. So what else can you do with kin? But as the ecosystem matures and evolves, there will probably be other solutions and maybe ways to move kin directly between different services.
A good question for tomorrow's Kin Rewards Engine session is, how do you balance that economy?
So, like, how are you technically achieving that, moving between service to service? Like, right now, are you just sending your kin from Kik to a wallet address that applies to your SoundCloud kin wallet or whatever? Or, like, you know, if I have Kinit, my friend has Kinit, and do I have to send it to that long 26-character hexadecimal, you know, ERC20 address, or like?
So to summarize that, like how technically are you sending kin from service to service?
So I think, again, like that's a good question. So on one hand, definitely not putting in like long addresses. That's a terrible user experience, right? That's not a good user experience. So we want to make it as easy as possible for users to be able to move kin, to send kin. Inside of Kik, it's very easy because like I met you on Kik. It's easy like to use the Kik like identity layer to make those transactions seamless, very easy. And then when you want to move across, So at the core, yes, it's a transaction, right? And the user is like the owner of Kin and he should be able to transact. But our goal is to make that transaction as simple as possible. So standalone app can really help in that just by saying, hey, I want to move now some Kin, and the app is there and it can make it really easy. So I move it to my wallet and then like I can send it to any other one. But eventually the way I look at it, like the user has full control, right? And the user should be able to send Kin to any other user on the ecosystem. What will be the way? I don't have a clear answer right now. I think that we need to balance between like the flexibility and the user experience. And I don't think that anyone solved for that right now. I remember that a while back, we tested QR codes as a way, and even QR codes are not a good solution for the online world, right? Like there is a friction there. So I think that there is a lot of progress to be made yet on that.
Your white paper specifically mentions user identity services like Keybase and others, like third-party services. Is there not a way to incorporate that to make it simplified?
So the white paper mentions identity services. Is there not a way to incorporate a third-party service?
So the answer is yes, definitely yes. Like our goal is like to have an open ecosystem, and if there is like a decentralized identity service that users actually use, Kin should be able to leverage that to make those like transactions easier. Is there anything right now that is ready on production? I think the answer is no. And like when you look at what Ted was talking about like a few hours ago, our focus is usage, and we want usage not in like 6 months or a year from now. We want usage as fast as possible. We want to make Kin the most used cryptocurrency in the world in the near future. And right now, I don't see a production-ready, a mature, decentralized identity solution. I think that we have a lot of like experience with identity coming from Kik. So I think that's also a huge advantage, and this is something that we're thinking about, how we can take the learning from how identities are managed on Kik and actually like use that to make transactions easier. But it's definitely not something that is production ready right now.
I'm curious. Some games, or rather many games have their own sort of currencies. It might be an MMORPG, it might have gold or something. And you need to buy these items. You don't directly use dollars. You first buy that game's currency, and then you buy whatever you're buying. So how would this work with here? Would you take here and then buy the gold and then buy the item, or like how would the user experience work in terms of that?
Yeah, so mentioning gaming specifically, first you use fiat currency to buy gems, then you use gems to buy an extra base, right? Something like that. So how does that translate to Kin? Would you then have to use Kin to buy those virtual goods, essentially?
So one of the key learnings from making Kik points successful inside of Kik was that when you have a closed garden where you can use those points only inside of Kik, it's not big enough, and the value cannot grow big enough. And when we look at Kin inside of games, what we have in mind is like instead of using gems or instead of using like local virtual currency, the developer can use Kin as a cryptocurrency. And the amazing thing is that once that happens, both the user and developer are winning immediately, right? So the other part of your question is like, how can users get more Kin? And I think that that's also like a key point, right? So on one way, users will be able to earn Kin. So they don't need to go through fiat currency. They can create value inside of the game. They can help other players. They can create content inside of the game and earn Kin by that, providing tips, providing help, joining a guild, right? Like many use cases where a user can earn Kin inside of the game just by providing value. And at the same time, the amazing thing happens that a user earns Kin, but that's a transaction, right? And the game developer is rewarded through the KRE by facilitating those user-to-user experiences. So the developer earns Kin as well. And then, yeah, like a big part of the magic of cryptocurrencies is that it's open, right? And if I want, I can go on an exchange and buy more kin, bring it to the game, and that will also be something that some users will want to do. It really depends. There will users that will earn more kin by creating value and earning value online, and there will be users that will decide that they want like faster earnings and they will buy kin on an exchange and bring it to the game, and the developer will have kin from the carry from the foundation, and they will be able to either like reinvest kin and provide like richer user experiences, or to award users with kin, or to use part of that kin as a way to monetize.
So are people incentivized to encourage exchange between customers?
I think
As a developer, I'm encouraged to incentivize exchange between customers.
I think that's the most interesting use case for cryptocurrencies online, right? Like I think it's definitely possible for Kik to sell a sticker pack, or for a developer to sell a sword, but that's not like the key value. I think that the key value is that I designed amazing online boots for a game and I'm able to sell them and earn myself, right? And the developer is rewarded because they are focusing on those experiences and making those experiences easy and seamless for the users and providing the best experience for the players. And they are rewarded through the carry. They have an incentive they are holding kin, and that's like a key element. So I think that facilitating those user-to-user interactions is the key way. It's the big revolution that kin can really provide. So really changing how value is distributed online, from like this duopoly or very few like developers to way more developers, and from those few centralized services to millions of users that are the real contributors on the internet and the real providers of value. They are not rewarded today. Like I can give you endless amounts of examples, right? Like I provide inputs for code for developers. I provide inputs about product management or design, and create video. I create art, and today it's so hard for me to get value from that, and I think that blockchain crypto can really change that.
So last question.
As people start moving more and more of their economic activity onto kin, at what point does taxation become an issue?
As people start having more transactions on kin, are taxes an issue?
So I think that's, like Ted mentioned, dial-up internet, right? And I think that's like the industry, like blockchain, crypto, is still like very early days, and I think that many players are still looking and researching. I think that the regulation is one player, and they're definitely on one hand understand the innovation, understand the opportunity, understand the potential, and on the other hand, still figuring out how to tax, how to make sure that compliance is like working. And I think that that is something that is very dynamic and changing. So I definitely don't have a clear answer for taxation right now. I think that Kin and Kik as a company were always leaders. Like when you look at how the initial token was created, how we deal today with like the ecosystem, I think that we're always leading on that. So we have a lot of like research and a lot of work being done into looking into taxation and other like compliance questions. But I don't think that anyone right now has a definitive answer. And our goal is definitely not to help users avoid tax if that's the law. And I think that we'll get there, but it's really a matter of the ecosystem maturing and each country figuring out what's the way to actually allow innovation and allow prosperity, allow value creation and distribution of value, and at the same time still be able to make everything legal or tax if needed.
Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Alex.